I wonder if Bevo's asking at the moment because the story from Mark Robinson in the Herald Sun overnight that the Dogs and Luke Beveridge will resume talks on a contract extension when he returns from leave next week. We know he's locked in for next year contractually. Luke Beveridge, now 52 years of age, his 9th season at the helm of the Bulldogs it would be. But they're keen to extend both coach and club beyond that, according to this report from Robbo. And he said that the talks before Beveridge went away were positive. They are finalising a 3-year strategic plan, we're told, which will be announced next year. Now, that's everything that the club's trying to achieve, including the men and women's football programs. And if he's not re-signed before the season starts in March, he will join Ken Hinkley, who goes into the final year of his contract at the moment at Port Adelaide, and Brisbane's Chris Fagan, for now anyway, who remains unsigned beyond the 2023 season. So, question to you and to everyone else this morning is simple. Should they re-sign Beveridge before the year starts? And if so, for how long for?
It's a great question. And I think the responses this morning are evidence that he polarises people, doesn't he?
100%.
Where do you sit with the list? Let's start with what he's got to work with, because I think that midfield has been as good as any midfield we've seen.
All right, so a systems check, if you like. They lost Dunkley. They really wanted to keep Josh Dunkley. Yeah. That's obvious. So they lost him. Happy to trade Shaki. Hunter, happy to trade him, and Cordy left. They got Liam Jones in and Rory Lobb in for the specific needs. Yeah, the midfield wants for nothing, but the backline certainly wanted for plenty. So they'll be hoping Liam Jones helps out there, and it will be a bit of a land of the giants. You know, with Lobb coming in, with Darcy there, with Norton there, with Bruce hopefully getting back up and running, with Jamari Ugle-Hagan taking another step in his development. Yeah. It's going to be a fascinating. Tim English obviously still running around playing ruck and forward.
Bruce back.
And Bruce back, hopefully.
Yeah, to go to centre half.
To go to centre half back.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, he'll have that.
Jones.
He'll have those levers to pull now, won't he?
With Liam.
Yep. Luke Beveridge.
So I think, well, the simple answer is they haven't finished the home and away season in the top 4 for a decade. So if you go, and everyone says, but they made the grand final in.
Yeah, but that can't be the measurement. The grand final has to be how the season finishes has to be the measurement, doesn't it?
Well, that's the discussion.
There's a thing for peaking at the business end. Maybe he's timing it absolutely perfect.
But you can't time it to finish 5th.
So they've been to 2 grand finals and won a premiership in his tenure in 8 seasons, and they've made finals in 6 of them.
Yeah, I'm not bagging the rap sheet, but what I'm saying is top 4 is the measurement, isn't it? I think that if you're going to win the flag, you have to finish top 4 at the end of the home and away.
Well, they've proven that's not the case.
They have proven that in 2016, but that's an outlier, isn't it?
And they made the grand final, obviously.
Finishing 5th. But the counter-argument is that they did sit 1 and 2 for the majority of that season and then lost their way the last 3 weeks. So I think he's an outstanding coach. He's a great motivator. I think the support crew weren't what they needed last year.
I think that's a very accurate statement. Yeah, and obviously Brendan Lade coming across as someone they really wanted, someone they went after, who has a lot of experience at the level, I guess a sound right-hand man, a sounding board for Luke Beveridge. They did go in a little bit differently with the support network, but they were hurt late last year, right before the eve of the season when they lost Stephen King relatively late on, and they lost Ash Hansen relatively late on as well. 2 key pillars of that off-field team. So, yep, they've sought to address that in this off-season.
So if he's your man, if you're convinced that he's your man, you have to get it done before the season starts. You can't allow this to be a distraction going into the first month of football.
And before that, Joel Corey left, Gene Siracusa left, Ben Graham left. So they have been regularly rated, it would appear. I think he is the man, though. I'm bullish on Luke Beveridge. A premiership coach with that record, okay, you argue maybe they don't finish at the pointy end as perhaps as consistently as what you say the list should have them doing, but they deliver at the pointy end more often than not, and he's got a winning percentage of just under 57, 104 wins, 79 losses. It's been a pretty consistent time.
If you've got a good one, you wouldn't be letting them go. If clearly they're hard to replace. It's hard to find great coaches. You've got a premiership coach in your premises right now. There's no need to rush him out the door. It's tracking towards another opportunity again in 2023. You can argue the list, you can argue their recruiting, all that sort of stuff. But no, he's a ripper. I'm not sure why the slows are on him from the fan base. I'm interested to hear from them this morning. Give us a call.
1300 736 736. A bit like Ryan's done out in Doreen. Welcome, Ryan.
Good morning, boys. How we going?
What are your thoughts on Bevo and the Dogs?
Yeah, look, I'm a bit up in the air still about him. I don't think, well, as you can see from last year, I don't think the game plan is nearly up to scratch. Like, we were getting just pumped and we just accepted it. Nearly there was a period where we didn't win a game for 4 weeks and we just accept it.
What do you mean by just accept it, though, Ryan? What makes you say they just accept it?
They just don't show any fight. There's no movements. And then he goes and drops probably our best defender, Alex Keefe, near the end of the season for 2 or 3 weeks. It just upsets the back line. When our back line's our weakest point of the whole agenda, and they just don't do anything. And then the people that he brings in aren't good enough for AFL football. They run around in the twos. They look grouse because they're playing like the likes of Coburg and teams like this that they beat by 150 points. They come in the AFL and they can't get a kick.
All right, Ryan. Appreciate it. Appreciate your call. Appreciate your opinion. I mean, they're all welcome here. Luke Beveridge, though, says Dom from Armstrong Creek is the best thing to happen to the Dogs. Give him a 5-year deal. He's got all the pieces of the puzzle now.
He'd get 3, wouldn't he? 3-year extension,
So he's got one more to come. Would you give him 2? Would you give him 2? That secures him for another 3, effectively. Maybe another 2 for mine. 3's a long time. Or 4, that would be.
Yeah.
Rob's in Geelong. G'day, Rob. What say you?
Not too bad, mate. Love the show.
I appreciate it, Rob.
Bevo, yes or no?
Oh, absolutely. As a member, absolutely. I'll take him for another 5 years at least.
What do you like about him, Rob? Why are you so bullish on him when, as we've established, quite a few aren't?
Yeah, well, look, I think what he does around the club is what his nature is, and that just urges and pushes and supports the boys. Mate, we make the finals, like you just said, what his winning average was, 57%?
Yeah, just under, yep.
Just under? Like, that's great. 8 years at the club, a premiership. Hey, if we go another 5 years and get another premiership, I think that makes him pretty ultimate.
Good on you, Rob. Appreciate it. Mad Dogs fan, says this texter, Luke. Itching for a new coach, though. Called it after the flogging in Perth. We need some fresh ideas, Kingy.
Yeah, and I think that's correct. So the support crew is important. To get those ideas, you don't necessarily have to replace the main man.
This texter says, Dogs, short of the mark for 2 years, you reckon, Kingy? Only made the GF in 2021. You also bang on about how good the Dogs list is, yet it's widely known we have the worst key defenders in the comp by a long way and a very good 22-year-old key forward playing alongside a couple of teenagers. I think you overrate the list. Need more than just a stack of mids. A lot more balance in 2023, but still some obvious holes with the need of a wing, a quick, small, crumbing forward, etc., etc.
Yeah, I think they had a blind spot with their key post defenders over the last couple of years. And I've talked about playing Norton down back for ages. And they didn't really experiment down back at all. So I think there has been a blind spot with that key post role and an intercepting defender. They don't. Who's their intercept marking defender? Who's their halfbacker that plays like Tom Stewart? They haven't developed one.
Well, hopefully they've just acquired one. An elder statesman.
Yeah, and you would hope that there is another option, not just Liam Jones.
Yeah. Boys, this is Tim. Should not the Doggies learn from the Saints and not sign too early? That's from Tim in Brighton. I wouldn't draw too many parallels between the two clubs, and one's a premiership coach with a season record of featuring at the point end of the season. So they are very different, Tim. Dom has called in. G'day, Dom.
But last year, when Josh Bruce went down, structurally that killed us. We had Norton, Waitman, Jamari Ugenhagen, a really young forward line, and all the attention was on Norton. He did well to get close to 50 goals. Just remember, the year before, Josh Bruce kicked 50 goals himself. So take that out, and that was always going to hurt us to score. And I like Keithy, but he's just a good average player who gets beaten a lot one-on-one. He's attacking, he's a nice kick, but one-on-one, he is just okay. So I think they've identified that, and I think that the future looks pretty good for the Dogs, and so definitely keep Bevo. Fantastic, love him.
Good on you, Dom.
Also important to note, I reckon, what they've done with their first draft pick every year. Can I just read out their elite selection. So go back as far as 2015. First pick 25, Josh Dunkley, massive success. 2016, pick 19, Tim English, great selection at 19. 2017, pick 9, Aaron Norton, awesome selection.
Yeah.
2018, first pick 7, Bailey Smith. And then you go to the last couple of years, they've got Cody Waitman and obviously there's the elevated academy selections.
And the father-sons.
So they get Sam Darcy.
The planets align perfectly with those.
But they've nailed their picks, haven't they?
Yep.
So that's why they're in this position. And when you're here, when you're good, you've got to become great. They're very good. Having made a grand final a couple of years ago, and I know all that, I think that they need, if you look at what Geelong did this year with the ability to rest players towards the back end of the year, you have to be embedded in the top 4. You can't be trying to find your way into 5th, 6th, 7th position to play finals rather than set yourself for finals.
Maybe one more call before we get to the break. We'll go out to Essendon where Michael's been waiting. What are your thoughts there, Mick?
Kingy, I'll pose a question to you, but before that, so seriously, any Bulldog supporter, they've got very short memories if they're wanting to get rid of Beveridge. 1954, that's all I'll say. I mean, please, he's made finals 6 out of 8 years, 2 grand finals, 1 premiership. Now, to you, Kingy, you're saying, they haven't made the top 4, they haven't made the top 4. A simple question, what would you prefer? Ken Hinkley, who makes the top 4, or Luke Beveridge, who makes grand finals and wins them?
Well, you won it in 26. I just think that when you look at, in the main, okay, 2016 was an outlier, the way that happened. You can argue it if you like. I understand the rationale. At the end of the day, you won it. So that's all we're talking about. But you have to finish top 4 to give yourself the best chance. Home finals, the ability to rest players, tailor your program to the back half of the season, make your charge, time your run. I think you have to be finishing top 4 with this list. That's my view. I understand that Bevo's never finished top 4 right through his coaching journey. So that's the challenge.
Morning. Can you ask Kingy if he's seen Bailey Smith's pictures?
Yes.
Wowee, what a rig. That's from Cal. Do you have a rig that looked like that in
Never.
your prime?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, he's a Brownlow medalist, a 3-time Best and Fairest winner, a 2-time All-Australian as well. But I reckon Tom Mitchell is as excited as he's ever been ahead of playing for Collingwood next year, and it's a great pleasure to welcome him back to SEN. Morning, Tom. Thanks for your time.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolute pleasure. Appreciate you making the time. Now, you were a big signing during the trade period, but I want to talk about the recent big signing you've made to Ball Magnets. So Josh Giddey's on board.
Josh Giddey.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting, isn't it? So Ball Magnets is now offering AFL tips and insights, and now we're into the NBA with Josh Giddey coming on board. So, yeah, first time we've expanded into another sport, and no better place to start than up-and-coming star in the NBA, Josh Giddey.
Indeed. So you're getting something like 300,000 views now a week across all your social media, in-app and YouTube stuff. Obviously, the free training and development app that aims to inspire, inform and entertain and educate as well. But how did this come about? Was there a link between you and he? Was there a meeting that you were able to strike a relationship from?
Yeah, it's gone really well. I think you mentioned some of those numbers there, but we've had over 25,000 subscribers now around Australia, and now to get into America is really exciting. But, yeah, so he was actually a Hawks fan, and he was over in Melbourne last year for his off-season, and I went to a talk just because I'm a huge basketball fan just to listen to him, and funnily enough, there was about 1,000 people in the room, and my seat was placed right next to him, which I'm not sure who set that up, but he was a Hawthorn fan, and his family's actually divided, Hawthorn and Collingwood, so trying to get him on the Collingwood bandwagon now, but just got along great with the family and Josh, and yeah, the relationship blossomed from there.
Before we tap into the excitement of Collingwood and what's ahead, which we really want to do, just to go forward for a moment. I mean, can you let us in a little bit, Tom, as much as you're willing to anyway, on why seemingly the papers were stamped at Hawthorn? Can you, the resume we went through, you're still in your 20s. Why that it came to be?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I think I don't think I was the only player who was, I think if we look throughout the trade period, a lot of experience has gone out of the Hawthorn list and lineup. So I don't think it was an individual thing at myself at all. I think it was just the direction which the footy club is heading. And, when you get your head around business of footy, which the older you get, the more you understand it and the less you have to get caught up in it. So that's just the nature of footy, but wouldn't be super happy to be at Collingwood and wouldn't rather be anywhere else.
So just speaking generally, though, is the industry perhaps too obsessive over finding, what players can't do instead of working them into their system around the things that they do excellently? Or is this just a situation whereby a club wanted to regenerate as quickly as it possibly could and you just happen to be in the, maybe the right place, but potentially just at the wrong time in 2022?
Yeah, I can't really speak on behalf of Hawthorn, but I can speak on behalf of myself, and I felt as though a fresh start would be great for my footy. And to have the next 3 years at Collingwood is super exciting, especially after the way they competed last year. Just, I was in admiration and really, just excited to be a small part of what they're already creating there. So I can only really speak for myself, and I just felt like a fresh start was necessary, and I feel like I've landed in an awesome spot.
You gave great service to the Hawks. 6 years, I think you were there, and 3 best and fairest. I mean, it's a fantastic output. Tom, can you talk to us about the sell that Collingwood obviously make the approach? What was their pitch? Give us a bit of the story, if you like.
Yeah, well, I've obviously got to know Fly from the year he was at Hawthorn in 2021. I know Bolts, I know Righty, and I guess they're, having worked with those guys before, they know that I've got a strong work ethic and, can really help the younger guys at Collingwood get their game to another level. So, I'm looking forward to taking some responsibility in a leadership point of view and really helping the players on the list through the lessons I've learned in my footy career. And Fly's massive on playing to your strengths, and I think he identified that, my best footy is when I'm playing on the inside, and that's where I played my best footy over the duration of my career. So that's sort of what the pitch was, and I felt as though, hopefully I can complement a lot of the midfielders there, the Dacos boys, the Goey, Crisp, who, are guys that can really carry the ball and run with the ball, and hopefully I can get it in their hands and let them do their work.
Now, we argue this a lot, Tom, and I want to get your version of what the worth of a clearance is in AFL footy. Some teams are designed to like Richmond, to get the game into turnover or get into chaos. Others are set up to win clearance and go from there, such as Melbourne. Your version of event, your view on the worth of a clearance in the modern game.
Yeah, I think it's valuable. I think, with how hot the pressure is in the game, if you can get the ball, in your forward half, the time in forward half stat, that gets used all the time everywhere. But if you can get it in your forward 50 forward half and you do have good pressure and you're set up well behind the ball, then generally the game is on your terms. So I think it's a pretty valuable stat.
So when you get the vision sold to you, as Kingy touched on, Tom, and you have the meetings with the coach and maybe the assistants as well, and the list boss and the list manager, what's it like now having met some of the players? Obviously, you've been down to the facility there at Olympic Park and had a chat to the crew. What have you found, and what have the initial impressions been?
Yeah, it's been pretty unreal. The group's been very welcoming, very accommodating. Like, they've already started inviting not only myself, but all the new players who have arrived at the club, to training sessions, getting the guys together. So I already feel like I've been at the club for a long period of time. I know that's a weird thing to say. I've probably only been there a few weeks, but I feel as though I'm so comfortable. Like, that's just how the club's made me feel, both players and staff. So I think that's a reflection of, what they've created so far. So to have new players come to the club and feel that way and feel involved and welcome, it's a pretty special feeling. So, yeah, we're already training together, putting in some work and some big sessions, and yeah, it's really hopefully going to set us up for 2023.
Mitch, there's always one or two players that you look forward to playing with more than others. Who are you excited to run out there with?
Yeah, I don't like to single people out. I got asked this the other day as well. I will do it just because I'm talking to you guys. I'll give you mine, but I think Pendlebury would be the obvious one. I think what he's able to do consistently, how durable he's been. I've already spent a little bit of time with him at the club, and even though I'm 29 in the later half of my career now, like, I'm still finding myself asking him questions, seeing what I can learn from someone who's been a great at the game. So can't wait to play alongside him as well. And
you don't have to individualise here, Mitch. Perhaps on the other side of the coin. I mean, you battled against these guys for a long period of time at Sydney and Hawthorn. Did there any smoothing of the seas need to be had upon your arrival?
I actually had dinner with a lot of the Hawthorn boys the other night, so we were talking about it. That's going to be quite funny when we line up against each other. So, we'll have to wait and see. I'm not sure if the fixture hasn't come out yet, but I'll be looking at that one on the calendar, and looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun. and a good challenge.
What have you heard about Craig McRae, his coaching style? Well, there's been a lot of conversation about how he handles the troops during the week and even game day with some of his chats, some of his pre-game addresses and those things. They're a little bit different. What have you noticed and what have you heard?
Yeah, well, I've been fortunate enough to work alongside Fly. So he was a forwards coach in 2021 at Hawthorn. He's a really good presenter. Like, he used to do this thing where he would come up the front of the group every time he would speak, and he would tell a story from something throughout the week, which might have been something so minor or not relevant to anything, but he would just bring the energy and into the club and get a good laugh out of everyone. And such a good relationship guy, like very good values, very respectful, but also his footy knowledge. Like, he's been around the game for so long. Obviously played in premierships at Brisbane, coached his own team in Richmond VFL, and just great to see him get a chance last year. And pretty amazing what he's done in his first season at Collingwood. So super rapt to be playing under Fly, and hopefully can contribute and help him on his coaching journey. And all the players are on board with what Fly's vision is.
Now, Tom, you did a lot of travelling over your break. You eventually caught up with Tom Phillips over in the States. Now, we know his travelling organisation leaves a little bit to be desired, but obviously he's looking for another chance, and at the risk of getting you to speak for him, I mean, how hungry is he? And we know he's a better footballer than he is a traveller by the sounds.
No, he's been working super hard. Like, we're obviously in America together, and it was more of a training performance sort of trip. Like, we're very keen to get over there each year, and we spend some time with the college football teams and some of the NBA basketball teams. Pretty lucky to do some things like that, and he's as eager and as hungry as I've ever seen him. And his running capacity, I don't think people realise how good his running is. He obviously played some super good footy at Collingwood, playing on a wing, running those patterns up and down the ground. And yeah, I think it might have been the year 2018. Like, he might have been stiff not to make the All-Australian squad or team, because he had a great year. And I know that's a few years ago, but he's been a little bit unlucky with injury at Hawthorn, especially this last season. So I hope he gets another opportunity. And
it sounds like you met just about everyone. I love how you met Dan McStay before either of you had even got to Collingwood in the crypto ticket box over there in California. That was an amazing stroke of coincidence.
Oh, it was bizarre. So probably the first person I saw in America was Dan McStay. So, we've formed a bit of a bond over that, and looking forward to playing alongside the big fella as well.
Do we have to, as the media and as a fan base, have to get used to player movement and be more readily accepting of people like yourself, Tom, going to 2, 3, 4 clubs throughout their playing stint? I mean, it is a business now. Do we have to just accept that this is going to be more and more common?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the way it's heading, and I don't think to the extent of some of the sporting codes in America, where there was one player over there, I forgot his name. Anyway, he's playing for his 14th team this year, so hopefully no one gets to 14 in the AFL. Malik Monk, I think. But, I think that's just the nature of the beast, isn't it? Like, it's hard. It's pretty rare, I think, these days to see a player that plays his whole career at one club, and I think that's going to be even harder and harder to do moving forward.